Welcome back, MTN Giants podcast. A tough one, definitely a tough one today. The Giants did start down 10-0. They came back, and it was 24-16. They had a great drive to score, 4th and 2. Saquon up the middle, touchdown. Daniel Bellinger keeps his feet in back of the end zone. Jones extends the play, finds him. It was awesome. And then that final drive for Minnesota happens, and the screen pass to Jefferson, and it leads to a 61-yard field goal. And as Giants fans, we've been there before. I think it's been now 5 times in the past 5 seasons, or maybe 6 seasons, that the Giants have been on the wrong end of a game-winning 61-yard field goal. 2017 was Jake Elliott with the Eagles. You had Graham Gano, the current Giant, but former Panther, with a 61-yarder back in 2018, and then today was Greg Joseph, who's made plenty of clutch kicks for the Vikings this year. So the Giants do fall to 8-6-1. Now the good news is that a lot of teams the Giants needed to lose did lose. The Seahawks lost, the Lions lost, and the Commanders lost. So it's not like the Giants are in a bad spot right now. Obviously, if they won today, they would have clinched a playoff spot. That would have been great. But I do have much confidence in this team to be able to beat the Colts next week. I'm not that concerned about it, and the Colts are coming off a short week because they play on Monday this week. So as long as they handle business at home against a bad Colts team, the Giants will be playoff bound. Even if the Giants don't win a game this year, or another game this year, there's still a chance they are playoff bound. So I'm not like freaking out. It sucks to lose this game, obviously, the way they did, but I also kind of leave this game encouraged. I know when you come to my channel, you probably hear a lot of negativity sometimes, or pessimistic type views, but this game actually leaves me pretty optimistic about what the Giants could be going forward. And I know that a lot of times, like, I get labeled a Daniel Jones hater and things like that. I left this game just like loving what I saw from Daniel Jones today. And if Daniel Jones gives me this consistently, I'm all aboard the Daniel Jones train. Now, the problem is that most of the time this year, he has not done this. Now, I know they were playing like the worst passing defense today, and most times Kafka has kept the offense kind of limited. But today, for whatever reason, whether it was the matchup or whether it was like, I don't know. I have no idea what else it would be. But they opened up the offense today, which I've been hoping would happen. And I get the Giants don't have great receivers, but they're still NFL talent receivers. You can make something happen with these guys. You still have Isaiah Hodgins, who's been playing great football. Richie James is an okay slot receiver. He definitely has his mishaps here and there, as we know. And Darius Slayton, he's a fine, wide receiver 3 on most teams, but on this team, he's a wide receiver 1, but he still gets the job done most times. So the Giants were able to put up points offensively. I said in the pregame video for this, like, the Giants will have to put up at least like 21 in this game. They put up 24, so they were able to kind of do their part offensively. There were some miscues. There was the fumble by Bellinger, which was in a pretty costly situation because I do believe they were right on the cusp of getting into the red zone. There was the Daniel Jones interception, which I'm not gonna come on here and get mad at Daniel Jones for throwing one interception in a game where the guy was throwing the ball all over the yard and I thought played great. 334 passing yards and 1 touchdown. I'm not going to get on you for an interception. So I know you guys might be shocked by that because, once again, I am labeled a Jones hater. But when you're putting up points offensively and throwing the ball for a lot of yards and moving the offense, I'm not going to get on your ass for having 1 interception. It wasn't even like the worst interception either. I do think he threw it to the right guy. He just threw it slightly behind him. Maybe Patrick Peterson kind of baited him into it as a crafty veteran at this point in his career. But I'm not that mad about the interception. I'm more mad about the Daniel Bellinger fumble and like the dropped interceptions on defense and things like that. So, I do feel a bit optimistic now about Daniel Jones going forward. Now, if he turns back into a guy who looks very limited next week and whatever, I'm not going to feel as good about it. But I would say if Jones continues to play like this the rest of the year, he's going to be back next year. I'm not going to say it's going to be like a 4 or 5 year deal, but he'll at least be back for next year if he can play at this level. So that would be great. And hopefully, of course, the Giants can add some talent around him in the offseason. So that was like my opening intro. That took a long ass time. But anyway, hope you guys enjoy the video. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. follow the podcast, and let's get into it. I forgot to mention this in my preview video, so I kind of felt bad about it afterwards, but I do want to wish you guys a happy holiday, Merry Christmas to those who celebrate. And I actually want to hear in the comments, what is the best gift you've ever received that is Giants related? I'm trying to think of what mine is. I think in 2017, so this was actually like right after Eli got benched for Geno, but of course Eli finished the year as a starter. I got like this really big framed Eli jersey signed, and it had like 4 pictures. It was a really cool piece of memorabilia for Eli Manning. So I think that's my favorite Giants thing I got for Christmas, or even Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, like just your best Giants gift. I definitely want to see those in the comments. So anyway, let's get into the offense. We kind of touched on Daniel Jones already. 30 for 42, 334 yards, which I believe is his second most, or maybe most this year. He had over 300 in the Lions game too, but 334 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and DJ did add some rushing yards as well. We'll get to that. 4 carries for 34 yards, and I don't think many of those were designed. I think a lot of those were just kind of broken plays, and he said, all right, I'm taking off, and he made things happen, Daniel Jones, so I love seeing that. As I mentioned, the guy played a great game. I don't put any of this game on him whatsoever. I don't care about the interception. I mean, I do care, but I also don't blame the guy because I want my quarterback taking chances. I don't really care if it happens in that type of way. Saquon, 14 carries, 84 yards total. Did have a rushing touchdown, as we touched on before, with the 4th and 2 play to go down by 2, and 6 yards per carry. Saquon did have a pretty nice receiving day. Definitely had a lot of targets. He had 8 receptions for 49 yards. Wow. So yeah, this might have been his highest reception total of the year. This actually might be Saquon's highest reception total since 2018, which was his rookie year, obviously. He was getting these type of receptions with Eli because Eli at that point in his career did not want to take hits and was checking the ball down to Barkley a lot and throwing a lot of swing passes. But Saquon, I feel like, has not seen 8 receptions in a while. So I could be wrong about that, but maybe someone can fact check me on that one. But I feel like it's been a while since Saquon has had over 8 receptions. So as I said, this is the Daniel Jones I've been waiting for. Evan Neal did not have the best day. He did get beat by, I think, Danielle Hunter early. That play did cause a fumble, but I think Jones got onto it. Actually, no, I think Evan Neal got back onto it. So Evan Neal gave up the sack and Jones lost the ball, but Evan Neal jumped back on it. So I was like, all right, well, at least he recovered the fumble. But, I'm still not that worried about Evan Neal, the big picture in his entire career. But for this year, at least, as I said last week, it's been a disappointing season for Evan Neal. The injury, the inconsistency, not playing well overall. It happens, though. Andrew Thomas had the same type of thing. I mean, sometimes rookie tackles take a while. So hopefully by next year, he is a stud. So hopefully that's what happens. Andrew Thomas also allowed a sack. So, I mean, you don't see it every week, but I think Thomas now, maybe 3 of the past 4 weeks has allowed a sack, which is definitely not Andrew Thomas-like. He got beat around the edge. It happens. Not everyone's going to be perfect, but with Andrew Thomas, you felt like that side was very secure, and I still feel great about Thomas overall, but just another thing that was a reason the Giants did not win today. Offense had a very clutch drive at the end, as I mentioned, so it was a 7-play drive. They were down by 8 points, and I'm sure Vikings fans felt very confident at that point that Minnesota would take that victory, and the Giants offense got the ball with exactly 3 minutes to go. They were on their own 25-yard line. They hit Darius Slayton for a 32-yard gain. That was a weird play because Slayton caught, it was a pretty short pass, I feel like, and then Slayton kind of just tiptoed down the sideline for an extra 20 yards, so that worked out. And then got into a 4th and 2, so they had the 8-yard gain to no one, actually. Daniel Jones had an 8-yard rushing play, and then on 4th and 2, out of the shotgun, just an inside handoff to Saquon for 27 yards and a touchdown. Then the 2-point conversion came, and I'm really happy that Jones actually gave his guy a shot. As I said, I do love when my quarterback, whether it's Jones or Eli or anybody else I've watched in a Giants uniform, gives their receivers a shot, especially on 2-point conversions, because that's a do-or-die type play. Jones probably doesn't throw that ball maybe in a normal situation, on 1st down and goal, but that being a 2-point conversion, he said, screw it, I'm going to throw this up to Daniel Bellinger. He got it right over the defender's arms, and Bellinger made the catch, kept his feet in. Giants tied the game. So then, of course, the Vikings came down the field. And I mean, that play, we'll go over that in the defense more, but that play where Justin Jefferson had the screen pass for 17 yards, it seemed like they sent a lot of pressure, and that's like one thing I kind of like, want to get on Don Martindale for. It's like, why did you send so much pressure there? In that case, just play like conservative defense, like a cover 2, and just make sure they don't get into field goal range. But he sent maybe like 5-6 guys, and obviously a screen pass against the blitz is going to work a lot of times for the offense, so that did not work out too well for the Giants there. So yeah, the offense had the clutch drive. Bad Richie James drop. Yeah, Richie James had a pretty awful drop on third down. It was a 3rd and 5 on Minnesota's 37, but Graham Gano did make a 55-yard field goal right after, and Graham Gano, by the way, has been spectacular. Awesome. Like, he's been worth every penny so far. But there was also the next drive after this. So the drive after the Richie James drop on third down. So they, the Vikings got into a 3rd and 17. They checked down the Hawkinson 9-yard gain. So they punted. Now the Giants, they started on their own 25. And they had the 5-yard play to Isaiah Hodgins, and then Daniel Jones, incomplete pass for Isaiah Hodgins. So the Giants then had a 4th and 4 on their own 31. So at that point, they were down 8, I believe it was. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It was a 1-point game. They were down 17-16 at that point. So 4th and 4, your own 31. I kind of wanted to go for that. I tweeted it, and then like literally seconds later, Jamie Gillen had his punt blocked, and yeah, that just was not great to see. I think in that situation, like, I don't know the analytics off the top of my head, and I do think the Giants are definitely more analytically driven now than they have ever been. And we know Brian Dable's not afraid to go for it, but in that situation, you're down 1. I get if you don't get that, it does put Minnesota in field goal range, but you're still down 4 if you hold Minnesota to a field goal. So I feel like you're still in a 1-possession game, even if the Vikings, let's say the Giants don't get that 4th and 4 on their own 31. Even if the Vikings get the ball back and score a touchdown and make the extra point, assuming they go up 8. So, like, you're still down 1 possession regardless, and as we know, the Giants did get the ball back down 8, and they went down the field and tied the game. So that's why on 4th and 4, when you only need 4 yards, you might as well just go for it. I mean, it's not going to work out sometimes, but I feel like in that situation, you just put the ball in Daniel Jones' hands for how well he was playing and try and get the 4 yards. Anyway, the Vikings scored like a minute later. That was a Justin Jefferson 17-yard touchdown. Then the Giants got the ball back, had the 7-play drive, and they got 2-point conversion. So that was great to see, but just I kind of wanted to go for that one, not going to lie. I mean, I don't like to get on Brian Dable too much because he's like our savior, but at the same time, like, I wanted to be more aggressive on a play like that. So Isaiah Hodgins, I would say definitely a keeper. I don't think Hodgins is like an elite wide receiver and probably never will be, but definitely a guy I want to keep around. I think especially if Darius Slayton does walk this offseason, I do think he is a free agent, right? I think 2019 was his rookie year. He's on a 4-year deal, so I think the math adds up there. Isaiah Hodgins could be like a perfect guy to keep on a cheap contract and can give you some of the production that Slayton did give us or is giving us if Slayton were to walk and get a bigger contract elsewhere. So Slayton, by the way, good game. 4 catches, 79 yards, so you'll take that. But Isaiah Hodgins, 8 catches, 89 yards, and 1 touchdown. He made a great catch. Fingertips fully extended. It was like a 40, 50-yard catch. Jones gave him a nice ball. Hodgins has been great, so I really can't ask for much more. He's kind of doing what Kenny Golladay was supposed to do, and it sucks that we're paying one guy all the money he's getting, and Hodgins is probably making like close to the minimum, so it's funny how that works out. But yeah, Hodgins is definitely a guy I want to see back next year, assuming he keeps this type of play up. And I end off here saying, hey, a positive is that they finally opened up the offense. I mean, last week, I know it's a game-by-game thing, right? I mean, every game, especially with a good coaching staff, every game is going to have a different game plan. And I get that in some weeks you want to kind of tone it down offensively and not take as many shots and things like that. But last week, Daniel Jones, as I mentioned probably multiple times, did not have a single pass attempt over 13 yards. And it was like, I'm like, look, I'm happy we won that game versus the Washington Commanders, but at the same time, it's not sustainable to win games like that if your quarterback is not throwing the ball over 13 yards. And of course, that didn't really go over well in the comments with some people, but it's true. I mean, you're not going to get by in the NFL consistently doing that. So I'm happy they opened up the offense. I'm looking for his passing chart now on Next Gen Stats for today's game, and I don't think they have it up for some reason. I don't know why, but the most recent one's week 15, so that sucks. Anyway, I would like to see that, but Jones definitely just gave his receivers more chances, and there were times the receivers did not have much separation, and Jones had to fit the ball into a tight window, and he was doing that too, which was great to see. So, it's not always going to be your guy's going to have 5 yards of separation. There are times in the NFL or even any type of football at any level where you have to throw your guy open, and that's what Jones did on like multiple occasions. So I did love seeing that, and Jones definitely elevated the guys around him. That's what we talk about with like really good quarterbacks and guys that are elite. They elevate the players around him. I think Jones did that today. He definitely did. Now, I'm not going to like lose my shit over one game, but if he does that consistently, I definitely will start to buy into the talk of like, this guy's a franchise quarterback. So I do hope we see this going forward. I get next week versus the Colts. It may be more of a run heavy game and just try and like not make many offensive mistakes. So I'm not expecting a 350 yard passing yard game from Daniel Jones, but I do hope he continues this level of play up next week. Defensively, look, there was definitely ups and downs. We know that the Vikings have a lot more offensive talent than the Giants do defensive talent. So, of course, covering Hawkinson and Thielen and Jefferson and Cook and all those guys, it's going to be tough for an entire game. And Justin Jefferson definitely left his stamp on this game. Same thing for TJ Hawkinson. Hawkinson in this one had a pretty crazy stat line. 13 catches, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns, had that crazy touchdown reception. So for a tight end, that's an amazing stat line. For anybody, that's an amazing stat line. Justin Jefferson, he did break the single season Vikings franchise like single season receiving record, so that was pretty cool to see. But 12 receptions, 133 yards, 1 touchdown. Of course, he had his way with Fabian Moreau multiple times, and I think there was maybe a play or two where Moreau had good coverage on him as well, and I think there was one play where Justin Jefferson definitely would have had a completion for like 20 yards, but Dexter Lawrence altered the throw by getting pressure in Kirk Cousins' face. So there were guys that played really well in the Giants' defense individually. Even Jalen Smith actually had a pretty good game. He even had a sack too. So there were almost interceptions in this game by the Giants. Kirk Cousins did leave this game with basically 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions, but the Giants were very close, like 3 times to having interceptions. There were 2 that I know Nick McLeod had that one very early on. It was actually a Hawkinson target where McLeod tried to make a catch where he kept his feet in on the sideline and make the catch. He just flat out dropped the ball. I mean, Nick McLeod, come on, catch the ball once in a while, will you? But there was that one. There was the Cordell Flott, which I think was later in the game. It would have been a huge play if it happened, but the nose of the ball hit the ground. They said he didn't survive the ground or whatever, so that was overturned. And I do think there was also one. It might have been either McLeod or Fabian Moreau. I think one of the guys intercepted it, and one of the guys had a defensive holding or something like that. So it was called back. So, those things went against the Giants, and it is what it is. I mean, that's why these guys play defense, as they say. But Landon Collins, he stepped up in a big way. He had a sack late in this game, a very nice pass breakup on a TJ Hawkinson play. I believe had a tackle for a loss. I mean, Landon Collins stepped up in a big way today. So to see him back here making plays, I do love seeing that. Dexter Lawrence, I mentioned he definitely altered some throws today from Kirk Cousins. He was getting consistent pressure up the middle. We went over that in the pregame as well about how the Vikings' interior offensive line is not as good as their tackles, and I didn't really expect much from Ojulari and Kayvon as compared to what we saw last week. Now, Ojulari, despite leaving the game with an injury, did make an impact. He almost caused a fumble. He was like this close, and somehow Cousins held on to it, but I would say Ojulari made a pretty big impact for the time he played. Kayvon definitely took a step back. I did expect that once again in a tough matchup, so it is what it is. The last screen to Jefferson, like we talked about that before. I just feel like Don Martindale just unnecessarily sent too much pressure or just blitzed too many guys on that play. They should have played more conservative back into his zone. TJ Hawkinson destroyed them. I know on the Hawkinson first touchdown that Micah McFadden got just torched on a play action play. He crept up way too close to the line of scrimmage, got beat over the top. So that's part of the Giants linebacker experience. It has not been good this year, and hopefully that's a position they drastically improve in the offseason. Darnay Holmes had a key fourth down pass breakup on Adam Thielen, so Darnay made a big play for them. But yeah, I mean, it's just this type of loss. It sucks, but it also, once again, leaves me a bit encouraged about what this team is going forward. Now, looking at the playoff picture, because the Giants are probably going to be in the playoffs. 8-6-1 now. It seems like there's a very solid chance that the Cowboys will be at the Buccaneers. And if things actually hold the way they are right now, the Giants would have to play the 49ers on the road. I'm sorry, I think I messed that up. So yeah, the Giants would have to play the 49ers on the road. That is not a matchup I want. I would much rather play Minnesota. So it's almost like falling back to the 7 spot and not the 6 spot would benefit the Giants. Obviously, you don't want to avoid any opponents or run away from your opponents, but I just feel like the 49ers matchup is much tougher than the Minnesota Vikings. So I don't know. If the Giants do happen to face the Vikings instead, I have no problem with that whatsoever. But as I mentioned, Seattle losing, the Lions losing, the Commanders losing, all that stuff helps. It is nice to see the Giants actually had 445 total offensive yards, 6.7 yards per play. You don't see that too often, so I do love seeing that. But just a lot of missed opportunities. I think the game came down to the turnovers, the Bellinger play, the Daniel Jones pick to Patrick Peterson. You had the interceptions that were almost interceptions but were not interceptions. Things like that really changed the game, and I do think that Don Martindale, just sending too many guys on the final screen pass to Jefferson, also changed the game. So plenty of things that went into it. Definitely hats off to Greg Joseph for making a freaking 61-yard field goal, because that's awesome. So yeah, hopefully one day Graham Gano does that for us, and I do hope the Giants can be on the right end of one of these 61-yard game-winning field goals. So anyway, the Giants will get the Colts next week. As I mentioned, I don't see an advanced line for that one already. If I had to guess, I would say the Giants are probably 4.5, 5-point favorites, hopefully, maybe more. So they should win that game. And if the Giants win that game, they're in the playoffs. So just worry about the Colts now, and hopefully they do win that game. So that's going to do it. Once again, stay safe, enjoy the holidays. I'm trying to think next video. I will talk to you guys on Monday about the entire NFL. I'll do my NFL recap for week 16. Next Giants video, I'll probably have a questions video I want to get to. I know you guys asked me some questions the other day in the community page. If you want to ask a question, just go to the community page and comment. I'll get to those. So I'll probably do that on Tuesday or something. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you guys next time.